Hi! Welcome back to my channel. It's been a minute since I've thrown on my camera and done a hair dye video, and I've got a lot of things going on in my life right now that I wanted to share with you, as well as some recent footage of my trip to Phoenix, Arizona. And I've got a few hours before I need to pick up my son from school, so I thought I would throw my camera on, talk to you guys about my trip, and just film a bit of a life update video so I can let you guys know what's been going on with me lately. And I do already have another crafting video scheduled and on cue for next week, so this is just going to be a little bonus video for anybody who's curious about me and what's going on in my life. I've got a pretty busy week coming up. My son is turning 9 in June, but because the school year ends before his birthday, we're having his birthday party this weekend, and it's also my fiance's birthday on Friday. So we've got lots of plans this weekend, and I figured it was the perfect time to give my hair a little refresh. And now that it's summertime, I typically like to lighten up my hair a little bit or change up the hue. So today I'm going to be using some Pravana Vivids, and it is their color Magenta. And I'm going to do that right over my existing purple, so we'll see how it turns out. But before I do that, I'm going to first put on my gloves, and then I'm going to use a little bit of conditioner to go around my hairline and my ears, and that's just going to help me not stain my skin. So it's really taken me a long time to edit this vlog. I don't really know why. I really enjoy making YouTube videos, and I enjoy vlogging, but I feel like I've just been so caught up in making art tutorials that that's really just where my headspace has been lately. I'm also getting married at the end of August, so things have been really busy with planning. We decided not to hire a planner, and we're trying to make everything happen on our own, and it is super exciting and a little stressful, but mostly exciting. But back at the end of March, my ex was taking my son on a trip to London, so we figured it would be a good time to take a little trip ourselves. And I have a couple of friends that live in Phoenix, and I really love the desert, and I had never been to Phoenix before, so I thought that that would be a great place to visit because it was pretty close. It seemed like a great time of year to visit, and my fiance Chad had never been there either. Alright, and then I think I'm just going to do my hair half at a time. I brushed it out before putting it up in buns, so it should be pretty much detangled, but I also have my brush here just in case. And I've got a ton of hair, so I do have 2 things of dye here, but I'm hoping that I can make one work. So we took a super early flight into Phoenix, and we got there at about 7:30 a.m. By the time we were done getting our rental car and everything, it was still extremely early, and we had a lot of time to kill before we were able to check into our Airbnb. Luckily though, because Phoenix is a major city, there was already a few restaurants open, so our first stop was to Breakfast Club to get some coffee and some breakfast. And the vibe in there was really nice. It was already packed for how early in the morning it was, which was surprising, but it was so big that we got sat pretty quickly and also got our food really quickly, which was really nice after an early day of travel. But because it was still extremely early and we couldn't check into our Airbnb until 3 p.m., we decided to go ahead and go to the Phoenix Art Museum. And that building is absolutely beautiful. They've got so many different displays and pieces. We saw a few of our favorite artists. I really love Impressionism, so they had a couple Monets that I was really excited to see. And again, because it was so early, we were pretty much the first people in the museum, so we pretty much had the entire museum to ourselves, which was really lovely. And the museum itself is huge. There were so many different displays. One of my favorites, I think, was called The Flight of the Fireflies. Editing test here, and this was called You Who Are Getting Obliterated in the Dancing Swarm of Fireflies, so definitely a different feel. But it was this big installation where you walked into it, and it was just this really dark room with all of these tiny floating LED lights that would flicker on and off in different places, and it was just absolutely gorgeous. It was really hard to see just even 3 feet in front of you, but just so pretty. Honestly though, we were so exhausted at this time that anytime we saw a little secluded bench, we would both sit down and kind of lean on each other and take a little rest. But overall, I highly recommend checking out the art museum if you are in Phoenix. It's beautiful. I think it was only about $20 or $30 for admission, and we probably spent a good 2 to 3 hours there before we were ready to leave. After the museum, we still had a bit more time to kill, so we went and checked out a local bar called Ghost Donkey, which was so cool inside. They had a lot of different like tequila and mezcal drinks, but the lighting and all of the porcelain donkeys everywhere I thought was really interesting. And then after that, we were pretty much spent and it was time to check into our Airbnb anyway, so we spent the rest of the night inside. There's also so much cool street art around Phoenix that when we had some time to kill, we were just kind of driving around and looking at all the different graffiti and all of the different street art and seeing all of the little restaurants, shops. There's just a ton of things to do in downtown Phoenix. The Churchill looked like a really cool place. It's kind of like one of those collectives of different restaurants. So there was pizza, a couple beer places, and a few different other things in there that looked really interesting. We never actually went in. We almost went once, but I think that one of the food options was just like pizza and another one was burgers, and I didn't really feel like that at the time, so we ended up going somewhere else. But it did look really interesting. Another great food place that I really want to highlight. I'm about to refer to this place as the Churchill, but it is called the Garfield. The Churchill, and that's a little diner cafe that was really close to our Airbnb, and it was so sweet. The food was so good and really reasonably priced, and the guy who owns the Churchill was working there making the food, brought it out to us, and he could kind of tell that we weren't from the area, and he ended up giving us these little visitors brochures of all these different things to do and see that were close to us, and he was just so sweet. At one point his wife and like 2 small kids came to visit him at work, and it was just, if you're in the area, definitely support that small business. It's well worth it, and the food was great. I was also able to meet up with a couple of my old friends, Reed and Jackie, and we got some tacos and caught up, and it was really lovely to see them and just hear about all the cool stuff that they're getting into, all of their creative ventures and their plans for the future. And those girls are just so cool and creative and inspiring. It's really nice to be around that sort of energy, and I'm so glad that I had a chance to hang out and catch up with them.
Come back to Phoenix anytime.
Okay, I think this half is done, so I'm gonna pop this into a bun and then we'll do the other side. So after meeting up with them, we had a little bit more downtime at the Airbnb and walked around, and we're just like exploring around together a bit more. But for dinner, we decided to drive out to Scottsdale and go to a place called Flint, where we had the most amazing steak. And it was also a rooftop bar, so it had absolutely stunning views. That place was a bit more expensive, but it was kind of like our fancy dinner night. So we splurged a little bit and shared a tomahawk steak and some potatoes, and that meal was really, really lovely. After dinner in Scottsdale, we ended up meeting up with another one of my friends, Dana, and we went bar hopping around downtown Phoenix, which was so much fun. You know those people where even if you don't see them for a long time, things just kind of pick up like they never left off? That's definitely the vibe that I had with those girls that I saw. And so we were running around downtown. It was her, myself, and Chad just having an absolute blast. And we ended up going to the Killer Whale, which is kind of like a speakeasy vibe. It was super, super dark in there. Like, it almost gave like goth vampire nightclub vibes. It was really cool, and so we had a drink there. And then next we went to Disco Dragon, which is a little sake bar that's really close by, and this place had the coolest decorations and the coolest lighting. It was all this like purpley green neon with these big, beautiful murals on the wall. It was definitely really visually stunning. I'm getting really close to the end of this guy. I want to use every last drop. And then we ended our night at Sazerac, which was also a ton of fun. We had another drink there, and there was also somebody there that was selling cupcakes. So Chad and Dana both got a cupcake, but they ended up looking a lot better than they tasted, unfortunately. The cake itself was a little bit dry, and the frosting didn't have much flavor. But Dana runs her own baking company, and I also love to bake, so we might not have been like the easiest critics. Alright, I'm definitely gonna have to open up this second tube. But overall, that night was so much fun. We laughed so much. And then we ended up taking some of those little electric scooters back to our Airbnb. But I really wanted to try a Waymo. And let me know in the comments below if you know what I'm talking about. Because when we first got there, I kept seeing these white cars with like the cameras all over them, all over the city. And Chad and I first assumed that maybe they were taking pictures for Google Earth or something. No. Those are actually driverless cars that are trying to take the place of, say, Uber or taxis. So a self-driving car that just takes you from point A to point B, you pay a fee and it takes you to a place. I really wanted to try one. Chad wasn't so sure about it. Let me know in the comments below if you've seen this or tried this, and let me know what your experience was like, because I was so curious about that. Anyway, Jackie and Reed suggested that we went out to Superstition Mountain and told us about a ghost town that was there. So the next day, that is exactly where we headed. And because we were there in March after all of the rain that we've had this year, everything was blooming, everything was green. It was so incredibly gorgeous. There was also a bit of a light spring rain happening with a forecast of showers later. So by the time we got to the ghost town, there weren't too many people there, which is really nice. And it's a little funny because both Chad and I kind of expected a ghost town to like literally just be like run down remnants or like ruins of an old pioneer town, but it's actually very much like a functioning tourist destination. So all of these old buildings have been converted into new things. Like they had a saloon, they had restaurants, they had a cafe where we got some nice lattes, and they even had a place to take old-timey pictures, and we decided that that was a must. And I'm so glad we did because I think that they turned out so funny and so cute. I'll make sure to insert some footage of them here. We had a great time at the ghost town, and honestly, if it hadn't been raining, I would have wanted to get closer to Superstition Mountain just because it was absolutely stunningly, breathtakingly gorgeous, especially with everything in bloom. I really wanted to be out there in nature, but there was definitely some more storm clouds rolling in, and we were feeling the effects of all the fun that we had the night before. So after checking out the ghost town, we went and headed back into the downtown area. But after we rested up for a bit and got some dinner, we ended up going to this little dive bar, and I wish I could remember the name of it. I'll ask Chad and I'll put it in a text overlay if I can find it. But that bar was really, really fun. It was definitely very divey, but the bathroom had all this amazing, really cool art in it. And we happened to be there on a night where they were hosting an open mic stand-up night. And a lot of the comedy was really cringy and really bad, but some of it was also really funny, and overall the experience 10 out of 10. The last day we pretty much took it easy, but the last night we went to dinner at Rough Riders, which is another sort of speakeasy style place. It's actually in the basement of another building, and it's really dark. There's no windows, obviously, and it was another one of the more expensive restaurants that we ended up going to. But when I tell you the sauce on my chicken was like something sent from heaven, I'm not lying. You have to try it if you're in the area. It was incredible. And then before we went back to our Airbnb, we had a quick stop at Cobra because both Chad and I really love an arcade bar. And then the next day we were headed home to our beautiful sunny California. Now I am done with this side of my hair as well. Overall, it was a fantastic trip, and I've been meaning to vlog about it for the longest time. So I'm glad I'm finally getting my act together, and I'll have that vlog up soon. But like I said, life has just been so busy right now, and I'm trying my best to kind of get ahead of some projects because my son's going to be out of school for the summer really soon, and it's going to get a lot harder for me to film and edit videos. So I'm just working on that, as well as doing all of the wedding planning stuff. And like I mentioned earlier, we didn't hire a planner, so we're just really doing it ourselves. And I definitely have some friends that are helping out. Like one of my best childhood friends just agreed to making my bouquet, which I'm so excited about. Hi girl, if you're watching this. And I've got some other friends that have agreed to help me with some of the florals, but it's a lot to think about. And also I feel like I've always kind of kept my social circles really small, and then just kind of like looking back and being like, wow, who do I want to invite to my wedding? Who do I want to be there? And like having this like small little voice in my head of like, well, who even wants to come? Like who wants to show up for me? Like everybody's busy, like everyone's doing their own thing, and you know, I know that I'm so loved and so supported. I'm not sure how to say this, but it kind of brings up all these questions of like, what has my life amounted to? Like, what are the relationships in my life like? What do they look like? Who are those people? How do we show up for each other? And you know, I don't know. I don't really know what I'm trying to say. It's just, it's a big life moment, and it's bringing up a lot of, you know, big life emotions. We've got a lot of RSVPs that are rolling in now, and I've got a little bit more of direction. So I'm feeling a little bit better with everything, a little bit more prepared. And then we have a planning call on Thursday, so I'm hoping that I'll feel even better after that. I also went ahead and I ordered a dress sight unseen, and I got it in, and I absolutely love it, but it's definitely not a traditional like bridal dress. So I did make an appointment to try on a couple different dresses just to be sure, because I really don't want to regret not having that moment of wearing the traditional white wedding dress. I was kind of thinking about vlogging that, so let me know in the comments below if that's something that you'd be interested in seeing for me. Anyway, now that I've got this dye in my hair, I'm gonna leave it in for about 30 minutes or so, and then I'll rinse it out and style it, and I'll come back to show you guys what the finished result looks like. Alright, and with the power of video editing, I am back. My hair's looking great. It definitely has a lot more red undertones than the blue undertones that it had previously. It's super vibrant, it's feeling really healthy, and overall I'm super happy with how it looks. I also had a comment recently from somebody telling me that they had a nightmare getting the purple dye out of their hair, and this dye is permanent, or rather semi-permanent, meaning that you will have to go ahead and bleach your hair. I would suggest doing that with a professional if you want to remove the color, if you're not going to go ahead and dye it a darker color. I feel like I've got a little bit of room to play with my hair color because I kind of keep it in the purple family, but say if I wanted to have blue or green hair, I would get my hair professionally bleached before putting something on. Also, whenever I do bleach my hair to deposit a color onto it, I go to a professional just to make sure that I can keep the integrity and strength of my hair. Anyway, you guys, thank you so much for being here, especially if you made it all the way to the end of the video. And if you did make it all the way to the end of the video, leave me some sort of purple or cactus emoji in the comments just so that I know that you made it. And I'll see you in the next one. Bye!